So let us take a few C++ aptitude and object-oriented paradigm or programming questions. So what is a modifier? What do you mean when we say modifier? A modifier, also called as modifying function, is a member function that changes the value of at least one data member. Okay. In other terms, an operation that modifies the state of an object. Modifiers are also known as mutators. These are modifiers. What is an accessor then? Accessor. An accessor is a class operation that does not modify the state of an object. The accessor function need to be declared as constant operations. Differentiate between a template class and a class template. These two words or these two seems to be similar, but there is a difference between a template class and a class template. So a template class is a generic definition or a parameterized class not instantiated until the client provides the needed information. This is a template class. So it's jargons for plain templates. Class template, on the other hand, a class template specifies how individual classes can be constructed, much like a way a class specifies how individual objects can be constructed. It's jargon from plain classes. These are from plain templates. When does a name clash occur? What happens when a name clash occurs? When does it takes place? See, the name clash means you have a similar name. Say XY. This is the name. XY is name. Now the name are same. So name clash occurs when a name is defined in more than one place. For example, two different class library. This is in one class library. This is in another class library. Could give two different classes, but the same name. So if you try to use many class library at the same time in your software, in your program, so there is a possibility that you will be unable to compile or link the program because of the name clashes. So define the namespace. Namespace is very much related to this name clash problem to solve this. It is a feature in C++, and there are see, this is namespace in C++, but if you go to Java, you will find package there, and they does the same thing. So it is a feature in C++ to minimize name collisions in the global namespace. So this namespace keyword assigns a distinct name to a library that allows other libraries to use the same identifier names without creating any type of name collision. And in addition to that, the compiler uses the namespace signature for differentiating the definition. These are the namespace. You will see in your program using namespace. Say, let me take an example, OpenCV. If you are using OpenCV, CV. So using namespace CV. So all those, this is CV is a wrapper actually. It's a package, you can say it's a directory. So now whatever you have inside, you can easily use it without any names. Say some other library you are using and it may contain the same name of functions, but with this namespaces, that collision can be avoided. What is the use of using declaration? See, I've just given the example also. A using declaration makes it possible to use a name from a namespace without the scope operator. So you don't have to use double colon always. You just use first line in the beginning. You just write using namespace and something, and now you don't have to write CV double colon read. This kind of thing you don't have to do it again and again double colon. So what is the iterator class? Iterator. See, when we talk about some loop, so what we say in looping, we say number of iterations, number of continuations. So iteration means number of times it is going to come and back and it will be executing. So this is the iteration only. So what is iterator class then? A class that is used to traverse through objects maintained by a container class. So there are 5 categories of iterators: input iterator, output iterator, forward iterator, bidirectional iterator, and random. So an iterator is an entity that gives access to the contents of container object without violating encapsulation constraints. Access to the content is granted on one at a time basis in order. So the order can be storage order or some arbitrary order. Storage means list and queues, or arbitrary means array indices, or according to some ordering relationship like you have in binary tree. So the iterator is a construct which provides an interface that, when called, yields either the next element in the container or some value denoting the fact that there are no more elements to examine. So iterator hides the details of access and to an update on the elements of a container class. So the simplest and safest iterators are those that permit read-only access to the contents of container class. So these are the code fragment which shows an iterator might appear in a code. So code, this is a count iterator. You count iterator. You have created an iterator now, or iterator. So x is equal to this count itr.next. So now you have done this, so every time it goes to the next value. So while some operation you are doing, you are going to sx, and then you are again making it next. So you're going to the next value or line, you can say. So in this example, this count iterator is the name of the iterator. This is the name of the iterator. So it is created on the first line, this line, by instantiation of count iterator class. So an iterator class which is defined to iterate over some container class, say cont. Okay. Successive elements from the container are carried by this x next, and every time next will come, this will contain the value. So the loop terminates when x is bound to some empty value, say some empty value. So we say that x is not equal to none. In the middle of the loop, see that this is sx, which is an operation on x, the current element from the container which has just come up. The next element of the container is obtained from at the bottom of the loop, like this, count itr dot. So this is how it is done. I hope you have got the idea of iterator now. List out some of the OODBMS available, object-oriented database management system. We have plenty, like Gemstone, Opal of Gemstone systems, Altos of Altos, Objectivity of Objectivity, Versant, Object Store, Ardent, Poet. These are object-oriented database management systems which are available to us. List out some of the object-oriented methodologies. These are object-oriented development, object-oriented analysis and design, object modeling techniques, object-oriented software engineering, Jacobson by Jacobson, and object-oriented analysis, the fusion method. All these are object-oriented methodologies. What is an incomplete type? Incomplete type. See, incomplete type or types, these are incomplete types. They refers to the pointers in which there is non-availability of the implementation of the reference location, or it points to some location whose value is not available for modification. Let me tell you again. These incomplete types, they refer to pointers in which there is non-availability of the implementation of the reference location, or it points to some location whose value is not available for modification. For example, let me tell you an example. Here we have I, which point to address 400. This is in hexadecimal, this is 400 address. Now we have pointer equal to 0. We have set the value of the memory location pointed by I. We have set the memory location, value of the memory location pointed by I. This is pointing. Now you have set the value which is you have pointed to the value of the memory which is pointed by I now. So incomplete types are otherwise called the uninitialized pointers also. These are the values. So see, it has it, but now you have set the value of memory location pointed by I. These are incomplete type, which refers to the pointer in which there is non-availability of the implementation of the reference location. Okay, or rather it is pointing to some location whose value is not available for modification. These are incomplete type. What is dangling pointer? Dangling pointer. See, if you have a memory area region, say you want to access it, you have freed that area. Say you have used the delete command, new and delete. You have just deleted, and now you are accessing that memory area. So this is the dangling pointer. So dangling pointer rises when you use the address of an object after its lifetime is over. You are using an object, or you use the address of an object after its lifetime is over. So this may occur in situation like returning address of the automatic variables from a function, or using the address of the memory block after it is freed. So these are dangling pointer. Differentiate between the message and the method. What is the message? What is the method? Are they similar? Are they synonymous? Or do they point to the same definition? See, message. Objects communicate by sending messages to each other. So if we have object 1 and if you have object 2, how they are going to communicate? They will communicate through message. While method, it provides response to a message. It provides response to a message. Message is sent to invoke a method. Message is sent to invoke a method, and method is actually an implementation of an operation. So the method is a function actually, while message is invocation or the passing of certain information. It is not the method. What is an adapter class or a wrapper class? Adapter class or a wrapper class? A class that has no functionality of its own. Its member function hide the use of a third-party software component, or an object with a non-compatible interface, or a non-object oriented implementation. These are adapter class. What is a null object? Say you can answer this that the object which has null value, but let us see, is this the correct answer? It is an object of some class whose purpose is to indicate that a real object of that class does not exist. Let me tell you again. Null object of some class. It is an object of some class whose sole purpose is to indicate or tell that a real object of that class does not exist. Why would we require it? So one common use of this null object is a return value from a member function that is supposed to return an object with some specified properties but cannot find such an object. So we have a null object for that. What is class invariant? What is class invariant? A class invariant is a condition that defines all valid states for an object. Class invariant is a condition that defines all valid states for an object. So it is a logical condition to ensure the correct working of a class. A class invariant must hold an object when it is created. This is hold when an object is created. This is when. And they must be preserved under all operation of the class. So in particular, all class invariants are both preconditions and postconditions for all the operations or member function of the class. What do you mean by stack unwinding? Stack unwinding is the process during exception handling. It is a process during exception handling where the destructor is called for all local objects between the place where the execution was or exception actually was thrown and where it is caused. So let me tell you again what is stack unwinding. It is related to the exception handling first of all. This is exception handling. So it is processed during exception handling when the destructor is called for all local objects between the place where the exception was thrown and where it is caught. Right? This is known as the stack unwinding. Define precondition, postcondition to a member function. Let us see first the precondition. The precondition, postcondition to a member function. A precondition is a condition that must be true on entry to a member function. So a class is used correctly if preconditions are never false. An operation is not responsible for doing anything sensible if its precondition fails to hold. Let me give you an example. The interface variants of a stack class say nothing about pushing yet another element on a stack that is already full, that is an overflow condition. So we say that is full is a precondition of the push operation. Now you got that. Now let us see the post condition. A post condition is a condition that must be true on exit. See, this was for entry. This is for exit. Exit from a member function. If the preconditions was valid on the entry of that function. So a class is implemented correctly if post condition are never false. We have taken the is full condition or is full for the precondition that this we should check the overflow of the stack. Now let us see an example of pre. After pre, we will see the example of post condition, what it can be. For instance, after pushing an element on the stack, we know that is empty must necessarily hold. This is a post condition of the push operation of stack. Next is what are the conditions that have to be met for a condition to be an invariant of that class. The answer is the condition should hold at the end of every constructor. So we are talking about the condition that have to be met for a condition to be invariant of the class. First is the condition should hold at the end of every constructor, and the second is the condition should hold at the end of every mutator, that is non-constant operation. Okay. Now what are proxy objects? Proxy objects. Objects that stand for other objects, they are called as proxy objects or surrogates. Okay. So let us see. This is just an example. We have given a template here. We have a class T. Say a class may have name as array2D. In this class we have a class which is array1D, and this is again having some say function, or say you can have some variables. And this is array1D operator. This is const array1D operator, and in this we are trying to, because these are the operators. So what we are trying to do is, let us see. We see that the following will become legal. That is array2D float data 1020. That is, we are just trying to see out the data 36. This is fine. Let me tell you first this explanation, then we'll go back again. Here this data 3 yields an array1D object, and the operator, this operator invocation on that object yields the float in the position 36 of the original two-dimensional array. So clients of the array2D class needs to be aware of the presence of array1D. So object of this latter class stand for one-dimensional array object that conceptually do not exist for clients of array2D. Are you understanding? Object of this letter class stand for one-dimensional array objects. That is conceptually does not exist for clients of array 2D only. So such client program as if they were using real live two-dimensional arrays. So each array 1D object stands for one-dimensional array that is absent from a conceptual model. Using the clients are using array 2D only. So in this example, the array 1D is a proxy class. Its instances stand for one-dimensional array that conceptually does not exist. Okay, let me tell you again. What I was trying to explain you that this is a class. Don't worry about this template and all. This is only about giving the data type. So you have a class 1D inside. So you have a class 1D, and this array 1D is having some operator or some all those operations that can be applied. Don't worry about that. What I'm trying to tell you is that you have an array 2D. This is array 2D and this is array 1D. So proxy objects, we are saying that object that stands for other objects are called as proxy objects. So because this array 2D is known to the user, but this array 1D is not. But even if it is not known, we can employ it. How? By this. When you are doing array 2D float data 1020, it is actually, when you are cououting the data 36, so data 3 is yielding the array 1D object and the operator invocation, right? So 1D is invoked, though it is array 2D is only known to the user. These are called proxy objects. Name some pure object-oriented languages. Smalltalk, these are pure object-oriented languages. Java, Eiffel, Sadr. Name the operators that cannot be overloaded. Can you tell me these operators? Size of dot, size of dot star dot arrow, scope resolution, and ternary operator. These operators cannot be overloaded. What is a node class? What is a node class? A node class is a class. First is it relies on the base class. It relies on the base class for services and implementation. It provides a wider interface to the users that its base class. It relies primarily on virtual function on its public interface. It depends on all its direct and indirect base class, and this can be understood only in the context of base class. It can be used as a base for further derivation. It can be used to create objects. So a node class is a class that has added new services or functionality beyond the services which it has inherited from its base class. This is the node class. What is an orthogonal base class then? Orthogonal base class. If two base classes have no overlapping methods or data, they are said to be independent of or orthogonal to each other. Means perpendicular, you can understand. If two base classes have no overlapping methods or data, they are said to be independent. So orthogonal is in the sense means that two classes operate in different dimensions and do not interfere with each other in any way that we actually want in our design. The same is derived. Say the same derived class may inherit such classes with no difficulty. We have seen a few questions on C++ and object-oriented concepts. We'll be taking more of these. Thank you so much. Take care.